All right, and we are live on the toll-friendly Atheist Dad podcast, reading time. And on this in this edition of reading time, sorry, I'm a little bit away from the microphone, which is why I'm a little bit distant. But this will be the second installment of reading and commentary of "I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist" by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek. So, yes, yes, reading son, you can talk if you want. And yes, I'll have the short, friendly reading son next to me. So give me a second because I've just got to share the link on all my social media, because if you haven't put it online, then yes, do you need to say something? You can say something if you want. I'm not gonna scare you away. So I'm just gonna copy the link, jump onto my Twitter, and then give me a second. But yes, lockdown will hopefully end in 2 days' time, and if it doesn't, uh, I'll be a little bit annoyed. I think just a little bit annoyed. Anyway, so let me just hit that. Yes, so a very cold day today. Very cold day today, and yeah, so hopefully the heating bill isn't too high. Anyway, so we're gonna get comfortable. Can you? You've got a phone of your own. I don't quite know why you always need to. If you want a photo, yeah, I know I can send that one to you. You've seen Mummy and Daddy kiss before. It's nothing unusual. It's then I'll charge it for you when you fall asleep. It's not odd, you know. It's not odd. Actually, speaking of which, I just found out I have a copy of The People of the Abyss, which is the book I really wanted to read and couldn't find my copy. Then I found a copy, and so sorry for the microphone rumble. I am just moving into position now in the warm reading bed with the warm reading blanket and the warm reading sun next to me. Now the therapy blanket. I love these therapy blankets. If you want to be warm and have a good night's sleep, these the only problem is in summer. They're like not very good in summer because they do make you warm. So anyway, I'm going to put the mic now. I might steal that. Actually, I was trying to think. Do you need that? Okay, let me steal that pillow. Sorry, stealing pillows off my son because I'm a naughty dad. Anyway, so let me put that there. Put that there for reading. All right, now. So I just got to get that in position. I think that's in position, and now I'll open up. And so I'm going to read firstly the preface and chapter 1. So the chapter 1 is a little bit long, but anyway, but the preface is really short. So let me get this. Okay, you ready, reading son? Okay, it's a thumbs up. Okay, preface. How much faith do you need to believe this book? Religious skeptics believe that books like this one can't be trusted for objective information because such books are written by religious people who have an agenda. In fact, that's the way skeptics view the Bible. It's a biased book written by biased people. Their assessment may be true for some books about religion, but it's not true for them all. If it were, you couldn't trust anything you read concerning religion, including books written by atheists or skeptics, because every writer has a viewpoint on religion. So, what does this mean to you, the reader? Should you disbelieve what an atheist writes about Christianity just because he's an atheist? Not necessarily, because he could be telling the truth. Should you disbelieve what a Christian writes about atheism just because he's a Christian? Again, not necessarily. He, too, could be telling the truth. Give a finger click, please. All right, so we're already here. So, yeah, the whole thing about, like, when people write, it's already assumed that there are biases in the work. And I remember when I was writing my book, that, you know, like, I write from a certain perspective, and then I make that perspective clear and upfront. So when you read what I write, and even with this podcast, you already know, well, hold on, Atheist. So you know he's going to look at it from a critical perspective. But that doesn't mean that what I'm saying is false. It just means that, you know, I'm looking at it from my particular biases. But it's up to you, the listener or the reader, to decide whether the author or the speaker is telling the truth. So you can be biased and have you can be biased but still get things correct and still be, you know, even-handed. It just means that, you know, like, usually bias comes in for those things where it's like line ball. When there's like a line ball contention issue, or so when there's like a line ball and like your bias takes you over one side, or bias usually comes in when you make a non-line ball decision line ball. That's kind of the other way it works, and I'll make it into that a bit later on. But anyway, back to the book. Click the fingers, please. But what about an author's agenda? Does an agenda fatally taint his objectivity? If so, no book is objective, including those by atheists and skeptics. Why? Because all books are written for a reason. All authors have an agenda, and all, or at least most, authors believe what they write. However, that doesn't mean what they write is false or not objective. While authors are almost never neutral about their topics, personal interest is what drives them, they nevertheless can present their topics objectively. For example, survivors of the Holocaust who wrote of their experiences certainly were not neutral bystanders. They believed passionately that the Nazis were wrong, and they were driven to record their experiences so the world would never forget the Holocaust. Now time to turn the page. And, hopefully, never repeat it. Did their passion or their agenda cause them to bend the facts? Not necessarily. In fact, their passion may have produced the opposite effect. While passion may induce some people to exaggerate, it may drive others to be all the more meticulous and accurate, so as not to compromise the credibility of the message they wish to communicate. As you'll see, we think the authors of the Bible took this meticulous and accurate road. It's also the road we're trying to take in this book, and when you've done reading, we hope you'll let us know if you think we've actually taken that road. Click the fingers, please. Okay, so just on that last sentence, the road we're trying to take, and when you're done reading, we'll hope you'll let us know if you think we've actually taken that road. I do respond to a number of Frank Turek's tweets on Twitter, and I've never had a response or a reply either way from him. And I've actually emailed his team to invite him or someone from their team onto my podcast, and I haven't heard back. I haven't heard anything either way. So sure, we can let you know that we think you got some things wrong, but the question is whether you will actually listen. And then on the point about the Jews not being objective, but still being able to write an objective account. I don't know of anyone who accuses the Jews of exaggerating things. I think one of the reasons why is because we have all this independent data about the Holocaust that if someone did try to exaggerate the claims, then yeah, we could cross-reference that and point out where they're wrong. So where bias usually comes in is, I suppose, one, start with the presuppositions. So if your presupposition is that the Bible is the Word of God and it is 110% absolutely correct, then yeah, it's going to be very hard to... That bias will then cause you to ignore objective data or objective scholarship or even the weight of scholarship or just contrary facts. If you've already learned to filter contrary facts, then you're not going to listen, and that's one of the things I find, well, both atheists and theists alike do, is that they how can I say, either make facts out of non-facts or make non-facts out of facts. And look, I hope I don't do that. I try to do it as reasonably as I can. Yeah, I will admit I'm not perfect, but it's a bit of a tight rope to walk, because no one has all knowledge, and we said we do talk with a particular point of view in mind. But anyway, click the fingers, please. In the meantime, if you're a skeptic, please keep in mind that you should believe or disbelieve what we say because of the evidence we present, not because we have a certain set of religious beliefs. We are both Christians, but we were not always Christians. We came to believe through evidence. So the fact that we are Christians is not the issue. Why we are Christians is the important point. And that's the focus of this book. Norm Geisler and Frank Turek, from January 2004. All right, so that's the forward out of the way. Let me just get chapter 1. Yes. What's up? You want a huggy? Okay. Sorry. The warm reading son needs a hug because he's a very cuddly boy. He's actually becoming a very tall boy as well. Oh, so it's not chapter 1, it's the introduction. Hold on, did I get things wrong? Oh, anyway. Okay, so it's not chapter 1, it's the introduction. So preface and introduction. My apologies. But anyway, so we're about to start introduction, and it's headed Finding the Box Top to the Puzzle of Life. One who claims to be a skeptic of one set of beliefs is actually a true believer in another set of beliefs. The university religion professor gave his wide-eyed undergraduate class a clear warning the very first day of the semester. Please leave your religious beliefs at home, he demanded. As we look at the Old Testament, I may make some observations that will run contrary to what you've been taught in Sunday school. It's not my purpose to offend anyone, but it is my purpose to be as objective as possible in analysing the text. That sounded great to me. After all, I, Frank, enrolled in that class because I was in the midst of a spiritual search. I didn't want any religious party line. I just wanted to know if there was a God or not. What better place, I thought, to get some objectivity about God and the Bible than a secular school like the University of Rochester. From the beginning, the professor took a very skeptical view of the Old Testament. He immediately affirmed the theory that Moses did not write the first 5 books of the Bible, and that many of the Bible's supposed prophetic passages were written after the fact. He also suggested that the Jews originally believed in many gods, polytheism, but that one God ultimately won the day because the final editors of the Old Testament were religious fanatic monotheists. Most of the students had no trouble with his analysis, except one young man, a couple of rows ahead of me. As the semester wore on, that student became visibly more agitated with the professor's skeptical. So I'm just going to turn the page. It's a bit hard because I've got a boy on my arm. Sorry, I'll read and sleep. Theories. One day, when the professor began to criticize sections of Isaiah, the student could no longer moderate his displeasure. "That's not right," he blurted out. "This is the word of God." "That guy's too religious," I quietly whispered to the person sitting next to me. "Look," the professor reminded everyone, "I told you all at the beginning that you must leave your religious beliefs at home. We will not be able to be objective if you can't do that." "But you're not being objective," charged the student as he stood up. "You're being overly skeptical." Some in the class began to heckle the student. "Let the professor teach. Sit down. This isn't Sunday school." The professor tried to defuse the situation, but the flustered student stormed out and never returned. Some time back, I watched a YouTube series of videos by Professor Christine Hayes from Yale University, and I think it's like a 30 video series of lectures, obviously recorded for a class that she was alive at in person, and she constantly references reading materials that obviously we don't have, but Christine Hayes is actually like an award-winning professor of Jewish studies, and yeah, she takes a, how can I say, like definitely a non-fundamentalist approach, and she does contrast the text with ancient Near Eastern literature, and she, she will say things that the fundamentalist me would have disagreed with. But this is the thing, like, let's say we went to a Mormon university, and let's say the shoe's on the other foot, and like we went to a Mormon university and someone was criticizing or even affirming that the Book of Mormon, and like we know that a lot of the things that the Book of Mormon says is completely false, but I got the analogy wrong. So let's say we're studying the Book of Mormon, the lecturer goes, or, this is false, that is false, that is false. And, like, we know a lot of the stuff in the Book of Mormon is false. But let's say we're a Mormon and we, get upset that, "Oh, you're not being objective, you're being overly skeptical." But, the clear indication is that, the Book of Mormon contains a lot of historical mistakes. So, at what point do you accuse someone of not being objective or being overly skeptical when the clear preponderance of data is against your position? So I think like this thing about the student is, well, this is again, like, if you, and this is where it says that's not right. This is the word of God, or things that you're not there to learn. And I wouldn't even say that going to a biblical text studies class is the place to find God. That's I think that's a different question altogether. But anyway, I will click my fingers. While I had some sympathy for the student and could see that the professor had his own anti-religious bias, I wanted to hear more of what he had to say about the Old Testament, and particularly about God. When the semester ended, I was somewhat convinced that the professor was right. The Old Testament was not to be taken at face value. However, I still didn't have an answer to my most basic question: does God exist? I felt completely unfulfilled when the last class ended. I had no closure, no answer. So I approached the professor, who was surrounded by students asking final questions. "Professor," I said, after waiting until just about everyone else had left, "thanks for the class. I think I've learned a new perspective, but I still have one huge question." "Sure, go ahead," he said. "I enrolled in this class to find out if there really is a God or not." Without a moment's hesitation, he snapped, "I don't know." "You don't know?" "No, I have no idea." I was stunned. I felt like scolding him by saying, "Wait a minute, you're teaching that the Old Testament is false, and you don't know whether there's a God or not? The Old Testament could be true if God actually exists." But since final grades were not in, I thought better of it. Instead, I simply walked out, frustrated with the entire semester. I could have respected a qualified yes or no, with some reasons given, but not "I don't know." I could get that from an uninformed man on the street. I expected a lot more from a university religion professor. Actually, no, I'll do this next section as well before I give some commentary. I later learned that my expectations were too high for the modern university. Actually, no. Actually, no, I will, sorry. Because I know what next section he's about to write. There's something I'm about to go on a rant about that one as well. Now, I actually respect the professor. If the professor doesn't know, then he doesn't know. Like, it's the professor's job to get to the I suppose the heart of the matter about the text. What the text says, it doesn't say if there's a God or not. God could still exist, and the Old Testament could be a composite of various ancient Near Eastern mythologies. So I think Mr. Turek was looking. He was trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I think he was looking in the wrong place, or as I was talking with JJ, the archaeologian, looking in the wrong spot. And that is episode 38 of the podcast. If you want to listen to that, it was a very interesting chat. But yeah, now this is the thing. Like, why is Frank unhappy with an "I don't know"? Like, do you want an honest answer or not? It's like, well, if we have to give the answer that you want or you feel is appropriate, then, well, yeah. Anyway, back to the. I later learned that my expectations were too high for the modern university. The term university is actually a composite of the words unity and diversity. When one attends a university, he's supposed to be guided in the quest to find unity in diversity. Namely, how all the diverse fields of knowledge, the arts, philosophy, the physical sciences, mathematics, fit together to provide a unified picture of life. A tall task indeed, but one that the modern university has not only abandoned, but reversed. Instead of universities, we now have pluriversities, institutions that deem every viewpoint, no matter how ridiculous, just as valid as any other. That is, except the viewpoint that just one religion or worldview could be true. That's the one viewpoint considered intolerant and bigoted on most college campuses. Right, now this is one part that kind of actually made me angry when I first read the book. So his line, the term university is actually a composite of the words unity and diversity. No, it's not. The term university actually comes from the Latin universitam, basically meaning a collection of the whole, or something like that. But in no dictionary and no thesaurus, no etymology guide could I find where it said that university was actually the terms unity and diversity. So I think Frank has really shot himself in the foot here, and I think because he had a chance to, I suppose, show that him and Geisler are dedicated to the facts. But when you say something as ridiculous as this, then it's like, well, you say that you're trying to be as even and removing of biases, but when you say something as inaccurate as this, it makes us wonder how dedicated to the facts you are. And I suppose hundreds of years ago, universities were dedicated to because I think Isaac Newton, his highest degree was a Master of Arts. But that certainly didn't stop him from being one of the greatest scientists of all time. And Charles Darwin, I think his only degree was in theology, because back up into the 1900s, when you went to university, you got basically a theology course with some science mixed in, which is so it's only in the last, maybe 150 years that universities have started being multidisciplinary, and all that. So, yeah. Anyway, back to the... Despite the denials streaming from our universities, we believe that there is a way to discover unity in diversity. And if one were to discover such unity, it would be like seeing the box top of a jigsaw puzzle. Just as the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle are difficult to put together without the picture on the box top, the many diverse pieces of life make no sense without some kind of unifying big picture. The question is, does anyone have the box top to this puzzle we call life? Many world religions claim that they do, but are any of them correct? This is sort of like this argument is sort of like remember Aaron Ra came out with an argument similar to this, that like the Twilight Zone, where everything had to fit because there was a script writer who made everything fit. And I think as you know, I won't say the Palpatine theodicy, that's a little bit different, but yeah, it's sort of like there has to be some sort of cosmic script in the background that's working everything together. And I suppose when I used to believe, yes, I used to think there was like this overarching thing that we're all working towards, even though we don't know what it is. But now, it's like, if you look at the history of life and all the different cultures and how separate and how diverse and all that they are, then yeah, it's like, I don't think there needs to be this box top for the puzzle to be put in, or to look at. It's especially when you consider the problem of uncontacted tribes. It's well, what are they supposed to do? Fit into our world, even though they've been isolated and separate for thousands of years. Anyway, let me. Religion and the box top. World religions are often attempts to provide a box top that allows you to see how many pieces of life's puzzle make a complete, cohesive picture. Actually, so I'm just going to stop there as well. Just going back a couple of points about unity and diversity. This is probably the start of Frank Turek's rant against colleges, against liberal scholars, against there'll be a few more, digs that he has at universities and colleges, and how dare they promote more than one viewpoint on things. It's like, well, okay. And also, world religions. He would say world religions without actually taking into account what any of these world religions actually are. And when you consider that world religions go from monotheism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, the Hinduism with its a cajillion gods, or pantheism, or there's even a religion that considers Prince Philip a god, or Rastafarianism. So it's I feel Frank, maybe in his bias, has just lumped all world religions into one category and then gone, well, hey, these guys are talking a load of rubbish, aren't they? Anyway, back to the book. This picture usually, and for good reason, begins with some sort of claim about God. What someone believes about God affects everything else that he or she believes. When Mortimer Adler was asked why the God section was the largest in the Great Books of the Western World series, which he edited, he insightfully observed that it's because more implications flow from the subject of God than from any other subject. Indeed, the 5 most consequential questions in life are these: origin, where do we come from? Identity, who are we? Meaning, why are we here? Morality, how should we live? Destiny, where are we going? Not really. I don't actually think that your beliefs in God actually do dictate everything else. You can if you let it, but I don't actually see any good reason why a Christian, an atheist, and a Muslim can't all reach the same conclusions on a large number of topics. And I think one reason why the God section being the largest in the Great Books of the Western World series is because the effect of religion on human history has actually been quite profound, both good and bad. Anyway, back to the book. The answers to each of these questions depends on the existence of God. If God exists, then there's ultimate meaning and purpose to your life. If there's a real purpose to your life, then there's a real right and wrong way to live it. Choices you make now not only affect you here, but will affect you in eternity. On the other hand, if there is no God, then your life ultimately means nothing. Since there's no enduring purpose to life, there's no right or wrong way to live it. And it doesn't matter how you live or what you believe, your destiny is dust. So, which world religion, if any, answers the God question correctly? Does any religion provide the true box top for life? The common wisdom says no, for a number of reasons. Another thing that is quite eminent in this book is the straw manning of atheism, and the fallacy that I will call atheism is nihilism. In Frank's world, there is no such thing as rational atheism. Atheism for rational means. He doesn't care that humanism exists and that humanism can actually be. Well, actually, no, he does care, but he completely undermines it. And so we've already had like one big error in his unity and diversity, thing there. And, he will rail against, college professors. And then, he's lumped all the world religions together as if they're all the same thing going the same way. Definitely not. And then he's going, well, if you're an atheist, you have no purpose in your life. Well, we have, atheists have as much purpose as Christians. There was a line that, so when it says, like, since there's no enduring purpose to life, well, just, if you need a God to give your life a purpose, then I think it's not really your purpose, it's someone else's that's been transplanted onto you, which I don't think is actually very good. Anyway, I will think back into the book. First, many say it is unreasonable to believe that one religion could be exclusively true. If one were really true, it would mean that billions of religious people from every other religious faith are wrong today and have been wrong throughout the centuries. And that's a big problem if Christianity is true, because Christianity seems to teach that non-Christians are going to hell. That's also the not unfounded fear that those who think they have the truth will be intolerant of those who won't accept it. Easygoing Americans are more apt to believe that no religion is the truth. The sentiment is often illustrated by the favourite parable of many university professors, the parable of the 6 blind men and the elephant. This is where each blind man feels a different part of the elephant and therefore reaches a different conclusion about the object in front of him. One grabs the tusk and says, "This is a spear." The other feels the trunk and says, "This is a snake." This one hugging the leg claims, "This is a tree." The blind man holding the tail thinks, "I have a rope." The one feeling the ears believes, "This is a fan." and the one leaning on the elephant's side is certain, this is a wall. These blind men are said to represent world religions because they each come to a different conclusion about what they are sensing. Like each blind man, we're told, no one religion has the truth. No one religion has the complete box top. Religions are simply different paths up the same mountain. This, of course, greatly appeals to the broadly tolerant American mind. No, actually, in my experience on Twitter, it's very much Christian monotheism has a very strong hold in America, and it's atheism that's well, we can't say atheism is a religion, but atheism is coming up. I've never heard anyone who actually says all religions are the same. The only people I hear who say all religions are the same are those who are those apologists who are trying to dismiss out of hand all the other religious claims. But yeah, can't say I've heard anyone honestly, genuinely say that all religions lead to the same place. Actually, no. No, I will take that back. All religions lead to the same place. Falsehood, because they're all wrong. Now, yeah, and the reason. So this whole elephant analogy, I don't like. It's cute, but I don't agree with it because it This is why we have the scientific method, in order to be able to test, to test and to independently verify and to give ourselves the best approximation of, the best description of reality with the data we have. So maybe like 600 years ago, yeah, sure, you could go, this is a spear, this is a snake, this is a rope, this is a fan. But since we developed the philosophy of science and methodological naturalism, that we've come up with these different ways of looking things and to be able to prove ourselves both right and wrong. And I think someone said that in science, you get points for proving someone else wrong, and you get even more points for proving yourself wrong, which is, anyway. In America, truth in religion is considered an oxymoron. There is no truth in religion, we are told. It's all a matter of taste or opinion. You like chocolate? I like vanilla. You like Christianity? I like Islam. If Buddhism works for you, then it's true for you. Besides, you ought not to judge me for my beliefs. So it's funny, because I just finished watching the documentary Jesus Camp, and so that was actually filmed back in 2006 when George W. Bush was still president, so quite a while ago. But the way Frank is presenting it here is that that like no Americans believe in Christianity. It's like, or at best it's a minority religion, whereas, let's try to think, I think he actually wrote this in 2004. Let me just see when. Sorry, a little bit hard. Yeah, 2004. So he actually wrote this when George Bush was president. So he would be very familiar with the Bible Belt, with the mega churches, with people like Ted Haggard, Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, Kenneth Copeland, Ravi Zacharias. He'd be familiar with all the Benny Hinn. He'd be familiar with all these big names in Christianity. And it's like you're saying, well, in America, truth in religion is considered an oxymoron. Well, maybe by like 5 people, but yeah, it's like, no, I don't think, for at least a very large portion of the American population, truth in religion is spelt Jesus. Anyway, back to the book. The second major problem with truth in religion is that some pieces of life seem to defy explanation. They don't appear to fit any religious box top. These include the existence of evil and the silence of God in the face of that evil. These are especially powerful objections to anyone claiming that an all-powerful theistic God exists. Many skeptics and atheists argue that if one true powerful God actually exists, then he would intervene to clear up all the confusion. After all, if God is really out there, then why does he seem to hide himself? Why doesn't he just show up to debunk the false religions and end all the controversy? Why doesn't he intervene to stop all the evil in the world, including all the religious wars that are such a black mark on his name? And why does he allow bad things to happen to good people? These are difficult questions for anyone claiming that their theistic religion is true. Finally, many modern intellectuals imply that any box top based on religion wouldn't be legitimate anyway. Why? Because, they say, only science yields truth. Not only has evolution removed the need for God, they say, but only what is testable in a lab can be considered true. That is, only science deals in matters of fact, while religion stays merely... Sorry, didn't click for this there. Turn the page. While science merely... in the realm of faith. So there's no sense trying to muster evidence or facts to support religion, because that would be like mustering facts to prove that chocolate ice cream tastes better than vanilla ice cream. You can't prove preferences. Therefore, since they insist that religion is never a matter of objective fact, but merely subjective taste, any box top derived from religion couldn't provide the objective picture of life we're looking for. Now I've got my fingers. It's not so much that science deals in truth, it's more that science is the best and most independent way of discovering about our natural world. Now, if all the facts of the natural world pointed to the God of the Bible, then you wouldn't need faith. You would actually have the evidence to support the belief and to support the convictions. But this is something that I've been writing about, is that once all the arguments are settled and done and dusted, what is the most powerful proof of God that I can have? And the answer, the response I get is, ask him to prove he exists. So hold on, you're asking me to prove that I have to believe that the thing I'm trying to prove exists before I can prove it exists. And it's like, yeah. So whereas science is as far as we can, as far as we've got the method down, independent, verified. It's not always just in labs either. You can go out to a field and perform tests and gather data from there. It's not just. So it's more science is both a methodology and a body of knowledge, rather than just the arbiter, the gatekeeper to truth. It's more of a Anyway. So, where does all this leave us? Is the search for God and for life's box top hopeless? Should we assume that there's no objective meaning to life, and each invent our own subjective box top? Should we be content with the professor's "I don't know" answer? We don't think so. We think that there is a real answer, and despite the powerful objections we have identified, which we will address in later chapters, we believe that the answer is very reasonable. In fact, we believe this answer is more reasonable and requires less faith than any other possible answer, including that of an atheist. Let's begin to show you what we mean. And again, just this thing about atheism is nihilism. Well, no, atheism just simply is just simply without gods. That's and I'm not too sure that we actually do need a box top. Again, it just sounds like the Twilight Zone thing where all the stories have to work out where the good guy wins. Like there's some sort of cosmic justice in the background, and I don't quite get why they have this fascination that there must be a scriptwriter who ties the story up in a neat little bow. But anyway, what kind of God? Before we go any further, let's be sure we're clear on terminology. Most of the world's major religions fall into one of these three religious worldviews: theism, pantheism, atheism. A theist is someone who believes in a personal God who created the universe but is not part of the universe. This would be roughly equivalent to a painter and a painting. God is like the painter, and his creation is like the painting. God made the painting, and his attributes are expressed in it, but God is not the painting. Major theistic religions are Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. By contrast, a pantheist is someone who believes in an impersonal God that literally is the universe. So rather than making the painting, pantheists believe God is the painting. In fact, pantheists believe that God is everything that exists. God is the grass, God is the sky, God is the tree, God is this book, God is you, God is me, etc. Major pantheistic religions are of the Eastern variety, such as Hinduism, some form of Buddhism, and many forms of the New Age. An atheist, of course, is someone who does not believe in any type of God. To follow our analogy, atheists believe that what looks like a painting has always existed and no one painted it. Religious humanists would fall into this category. Here's an easy way to remember these three religious worldviews. Theism, God made all. Pantheism, God is all. Atheism, no God at all. One other term that we will frequently use is agnostic. That's someone who is unsure about the question of God. So now we've defined our terms, let's get back to the issue of faith and religion. Okay, so firstly, they've actually missed out polytheism, where you can believe in a pantheon of gods. The Greeks, the Romans, the Norse, plenty of cultures around the world believed in a pantheon of gods. So just to say that, theism means a personal God who created the universe but is not part of the universe. Like he has this thing where he chucks, Geisler and Turek had this thing where they chuck all the other religions in this one basket and remove all the nuance, so that no one would recognize what, if a Hindu read this book, I reckon they go, well, I don't recognize my religion when you describe it that way. And I think Hinduism has a lot of gods, but isn't necessarily pantheistic. And the other dig I have in this book is religious humanism. I'm not too sure what religious humanism is. I know what humanism is, and secular humanism is just humanism that doesn't have a religious focus. But religious humanism is, I don't know what religious humanism. So I don't know what religious humanism actually is, and I get a little bit annoyed when. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a long one, because how many more pages I've got left in this? Holy cheese balls. Alright. Actually, I might stop. Actually, I might do this last, because we're already at 40-something minutes already. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll read this one last passage. Looks like the warm reading sun is asleep. This is the thing. Again, it kind of makes me question Turek and Geisler's dedication to accuracy, and he's definitely writing for a Christian audience. This is not a book for skeptics, especially rational skeptics who actually care about science and facts and reason and nuance. And in the next chapter, he really butchers science, which is annoys me no end. But yeah, so you've got monotheists, you've got pantheists, you've got polytheists, you've got atheists, you've got agnostic. But to me, agnostic is just atheist, but just a different type of atheist. Yeah, thank you, Frank. Anyway, back to the book, Faith and Religion. Despite its apparent persuasiveness, the claim that religion is simply a matter of faith is nothing more than a modern myth. It's not just true. While religion certainly requires faith, religion is not only about faith. Facts are also central to all religions because all religious worldviews, including atheism, make truth claims, and many of those truth claims can be evaluated through scientific and historical investigation. No, he's got atheism wrong. Atheism isn't saying that no gods exist. Atheism is, at its very core, not accepting the claims that gods exist. Some branches of atheism will say that no gods exist, and in that case I can accept atheism as making a truth claim, but in my perspective, how can I say? I think that the best way I've heard it put is God is not guilty of existing. Best way of putting it. Back to the book. For example, theists, Christians, Muslims, Jews, because they're the only theists around, say that the universe had a beginning, while many atheists and pantheists, New Agers, Hindus, etc., say that it did not. The universe is eternal. These are mutually exclusive claims. They can't both be right. Either the universe had a beginning or it did not. By investigating the nature and history of the universe, we can reasonably conclude that one view is right and the other is wrong. Sorry to stop so much, but this is one reason why I quit reading the book partway through, is because you just get so many things either wrong, or he just doesn't care about nuance. But where he says that atheists say that the universe is eternal, no, not quite. I think the best understanding is that I will say the universe is functionally eternal. So time did have a beginning, but there was never a point in time where the universe didn't exist, and then at the next point in time, the universe did exist. So I'm of the opinion that the universe has existed for as long as time has existed, which makes the universe functionally eternal, but not eternal in the sense that there never was a beginning. And yeah, a lot of the best minds who are looking at the question, they don't need to invoke a god. There's a couple of apologists I've got in mind who try desperately to invoke a god, but they're one of those who is a chocolate apologist, and it's something I'll probably talk about later on, sometime down the track. But yeah. Anyway, back to the book. The alleged resurrection of Christ presents another example. Christians claim that Jesus rose from the dead, while Muslims say that Jesus never even died. Again, one of these views is right and the other wrong. How can we know which one is right? By evaluating each of these conflicting truth claims against the historical evidence. Notice that not only do different religions attempt to answer these questions, but scientists also have something to say about these matters. That is, science and religion often address the same questions. Where did the universe come from? Where did life come from? Are miracles possible? And so on. In other words, science and religion are not mutually exclusive categories, as some have suggested. Certainly, not all religious claims are open to scientific or historic investigation. Some are unverifiable dogma. Nevertheless, the validity of many religious beliefs can be checked out. Some beliefs are reasonable, they can be proven with a high degree of certainty, while others are clearly unprovable. Alright, so I'll stop the book there. On page 24, The next heading will be the problems with Christianity, and so we're still in the introduction. Yeah, this is a slightly wordy book, probably not as much as the Mystery of Acts. Oh boy, that is a wordy book. But yeah, are science and religion mutually exclusive? It depends how fundamentalist and how literal you want to be. If you believe that the Bible is inerrant and is the final authority on all matters historical, scientific, and moral, then yeah, you need to jump through those hoops. You need to jump through those hoops to make the Bible fit science. And there's been some very colourful ways that scientists, as I say, that religious people have tried to put a 14 billion year old universe with a 6-day creation. Yeah, you then get concepts like non-overlapping magisteria, which is okay, whatever. Put things in the categories and don't let them touch. Whereas me, I would actually go for probably what I would call epistemological minimalism, where like what we can reasonably prove is what we should accept. Yeah, that's probably the way I'll put it. But yeah, so you can see why I and many other atheists get very annoyed with Dr. Turek on Twitter when he says I'll say some clearly wrong things, or things said in the wrong spirit, or just things he says that remove all nuance from the point he's trying to make. And yeah, so anyway, I'll continue with the introduction for this book later on during the week. We'll see how work and lockdowns and all that go. But until next time, look after yourselves, stay safe, get vaccinated. Yeah, do what you can to help minimise the spread of the virus, and yeah, be kind. All that stuff. Good evening and good.